Alright, let's talk about Superman 2025. Now this will not be a full breakdown of the movie. That video will very likely be a thing years after this, once I've actually had time to rewatch it, dig into the production history, and do the deep analysis that I normally do on this channel in a retrospective format. It's kind of hard to do a retrospective on a movie that I just saw. Instead, this is going to be more of a first impressions kind of review, and it's going to be split into two parts. I really want to emphasize this because if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't just put this on in the background and then walk away, because the first half is going to be completely spoiler free. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you're safe to keep watching as of right now. The second half will go into full spoiler territory, and I will give you very clear warning before that starts. But for now, let's get into it. DC Bros, we won. We are so back. It's not hyperbole, it's not fanboy delusion. That is the honest reaction that I had sitting in the theater, watching Superman save people, crack a smile, and just feel like Superman again. From the first few minutes, the film makes one thing immediately clear. This is a comic book movie in the most literal sense. This is not a gritty reimagining, it's not a deconstruction of Superman or an elevated take. This is a comic book. Ink splashed onto the screen through dialogue, world building, and tone. And if you're like me, that is a huge win. It's colorful, it's fast, it doesn't need to explain itself. You either keep up or you get left behind. And for the average moviegoer, that might be overwhelming. Characters are introduced fast. Plot threads start before you realize what's happening, and Gunn doesn't care if you're caught up. But that doesn't mean that the film is confusing. It assumes the audience is smart enough to figure things out without holding their hand, and to me, that is just so refreshing. What anchors all of the chaos is David Corenswet. He's not just doing a Christopher Reeve impression, but instead he's actually trying to carry that same spirit. There's actual warmth again. For the first time in a major motion picture since like 1987, there's no detached stoicism, there's no quiet suffering, just a genuine desire to do good. And after years of Superman being treated like a god or a burden, it's honestly great. It makes me emotional, seeing the character smile and save people again. You can believe this is someone who inspires hope. And Corenswet nails it. Seriously, this dude is Superman. Like, you feel that as soon as he's on screen. When I read All-Star Superman now, like, his voice is what's going to kind of go through my brain whenever I read that. Like, that is Superman. He nailed it. He did. And I don't want to be one of those people that's like, oh, is he better than Christopher Reeve? I don't like that. It's just, let's appreciate everyone for their own strengths, even Henry Cavill and Brandon Routh, actors that I wasn't too keen on them being Superman. But still, I do think that David Corenswet is one of the best to ever do it. One of. Rachel Brosnahan absolutely kills it as Lois Lane. I don't mean like she's just serviceable or she's like refreshing. She finally gives us a look at Lois as if she's a real person again. There's a hint of Margot Kidder in her performance, and she has the perfect mix of intelligence and boldness, and just enough to keep everyone else on their toes around her. She's very sharp, but she's never like smug or condescending. She actually does something in the plot instead of just standing around reacting to Superman. That alone puts her miles ahead of Kate Bosworth and Amy Adams. Brosnahan feels like someone who lives and breathes the job of a reporter, someone who wants to chase the story and who clearly has a history with Clark that's more than just forced chemistry. And there's also a bit of a dark side to that. You get the sense that, yes, this is quite literally her only personality trait, is being this like reporter figure. And so she struggles with having a relationship with Clark. That is a big part of the movie, and you really feel it with her performance. Meanwhile, Mr. Terrific steals the show. I don't want to say too much or ruin it, because the less you know, the better. But every single time he's on screen, the movie just lights up. I mean, seriously, this will create so many Mr. Terrific fans. I can see it already. Meanwhile, Nicholas Hoult is also a standout here. His Lex Luthor is doing his own thing in contrast to other prior on-screen iterations. And it works. What makes his version so compelling is the palpable bitterness. It's not world domination evil, but it's very personal. You can feel how much he resents Superman. Every line is laced with inferiority and petty jealousy. Like, this guy has been waiting his whole life to prove he's the smartest man in the room, and he still can't stand the fact that someone like Kal-El exists. Like, there are some scenes in here where he is watching Superman fight, and he's just like so bitter and angry, and he just wants him to die. And it's like, this is Lex Luthor. Like, you got it. Like, this is perfect. It's everything I wanted Lex Luthor to be in this movie. I am so happy that they got him right. No disrespect to Gene Hackman, and I guess full disrespect towards Kevin Spacey. But like, that version of the character, very, very, very solid. Right? I think it's a solid take on the character for the world that they needed to inhabit. For this take on the character that is very comic book kind of oriented, like, you get very kind of Superman birthright here, he nails it. And then there's Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. He's exactly the right kind of annoying. He has this like smugness, kind of self-importance, but he's still a hero at the end of the day. He's just the last person that you would want on your team. I love the way he bounces off other characters and kind of pushes and prods them. It's great stuff. But he also plays him with a level of sincerity that avoids making him into a caricature. I've seen some people complain about just how many metahumans there are in this movie. For example, without spoilers again, I'll mention just the ones that were in the trailer. There's Superman, Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, Metamorpho, the Engineer, Ultraman, and many others. However, I think everyone is utilized perfectly. Nothing ever feels overstuffed in that regard. It works really well with the comic book feel of the film. I mean, there have been so many times where I'll be reading a Batman story and then a bunch of random glup shittos end up showing up in the supporting cast, and it's like, yeah, I don't really know exactly who they are, but it works. And if you're an outsider, I'm sure you're gonna feel kind of the same way. It's like, well, I don't know who a Mr. Terrific is, but he's fun to watch. I don't mind him. Where the MCU feels like superheroes existing in our world now, the DCU feels like an entirely different universe that has its own history and mythos. People are very used to seeing all of this chaos and destruction, and I love that. It is infinitely more interesting than what if Superman was real, and what would CNN have to say about it? Like, I don't care. I already live in that world. I'm miserable. I want some escapism, you know? Tonally, though, the film's biggest flaw is that it can't always pick a lane. You'll get a beautiful moment of sincerity followed by a joke that kind of interrupts it every now and then. There's a whiplash that never really derails the film, but there is just a bit of like, okay. There's a slight instinct by Gunn to undercut emotion. And while it's not as bad as his more indulgent moments in, say, Guardians of the Galaxy or The Suicide Squad, a little more restraint could have gone a long way. Ironically, though, I actually found myself wishing that this leaned more into James Gunn's style. The script feels like he's holding back. You can sense the moments where a needle drop would have elevated the sequence, where things want to get weird or surreal, but the movie pulls back and instead plays some gorgeous orchestral score by John Murphy and David Fleming. Part of me is like, God, I would have loved to have heard, like, Starman by David Bowie in certain sequences. It's like, right there, I can just imagine that song playing. But still, that shift from Gunn's usual routine is very likely intentional. This is a clean slate Superman. It's meant to reset the tone after the Snyder era, but once the dust settles, I hope the sequel really cuts loose. Like, think Spider-Man 2, where Raimi finally got to go full Sam Raimi. This could use a little bit of that chaos next time around. Even with the tonal bumps and some inconsistent plasticky VFX at points, the core mission is accomplished. Superman is no longer a godlike figure looming in the sky. He's human again. He's a hero, a reporter who still believes in doing the right thing, even when it's corny. And this movie makes that work. It repositions Superman as more than just a symbol, but as someone that you would actually want to root for and meet on the street. Not because he's flawless, but because he cares. You leave the theater feeling like something was repaired, and in a genre that's this burned out, that is a major accomplishment. Overall, Superman 2025 is a genuinely great movie and a massive step forward for the DCU. I'm still a little cautiously optimistic. I mean, it's not hard to be after the DCEU crash and burn, but if this is the foundation, we're in good hands. What makes this film special to me is how it reminded me of why I fell in love with Superman as a character in the first place. With comics, with heroes who actually give a damn. The optimism in this movie feels so right. It's the kind of hope that people want and need right now. And for the first time in a long time, I walked out of a Superman movie feeling like the hope was real. All right, for everyone that hasn't seen the movie yet, get out.
No! Everyone!
I highly recommend turning this video off because now we are about to go into spoiler territory. So go and see the movie and then come back and finish watching this video. Or don't. I don't care. I don't care. Anyways, final warning. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Okay. They're gone. Probably the most controversial plot point in the entire film is going to be the villainization of Superman's birth parents and Krypton itself. The reveal that Jor-El and Lara sent Kal-El to Earth to conquer it and eventually repopulate the planet with Kryptonians is bold. It was really funny seeing Bradley Cooper show up as Jor-El, but I'm not sure how to feel about the direction that they took here. At first, I assumed that the second half of Jor-El's message, where, Clark hadn't known about the whole conquering Earth thing, was tampered with by Lex to manipulate public opinion. But no, this movie goes out of its way to say that this part is very much real. Kal-El was, in the original plan, a Kryptonian sleeper agent. And while that plays into the film's nature versus nurture theme, which is handled well across the board, it clashes with the immigrant metaphor that James Gunn himself said is central to this version of Superman. Making your immigrant protagonist secretly sent to conquer the place that he's integrating into has some very dicey implications there. Personally, I think this would have worked better as Ultraman's story. Let him embody the darker what-if of Superman's origins, and let Kal be the contrast. Let's scrap the whole Kryptonian thing, make it where Lex did manipulate it so that, people hate Superman. You can keep all that in, find out it was bullshit later down the line, but have Ultraman exist as being that, here's Superman if he was raised in a lab. He would be evil. Don't make him stupid right away. What I also hope they kind of do for the sequel is that they bring Ultraman back, but as Bizarro. I recently made this kind of mock-up thing to show what that might look like. I don't know. But I really hope they go even more comic booky with the sequel, and this is just speculation at this point, but having Bizarro like that would be just a dream of mine. I love Bizarro, or as Bizarro would say, I hate Bizarro. Getting back to the movie itself and this whole sort of nature versus nurture theme being presented through his original purpose being sent here from Krypton, I don't fully love the execution, but I do see the potential. I think it really sets the stage for some massive DCU story expansions later down the line. If Jor-El was part of a colonization plan, where does that leave someone like General Zod? Was he working with them all along? And more importantly, what does that mean for Brainiac? In the comics, Brainiac famously shrinks and bottles Kandor, Krypton's capital city, before the planet explodes. That bottled city has always been a symbol of Krypton's lost legacy, but in this universe, it could be something far more dangerous. For a second, imagine Brainiac showing up in the next Superman film as a villain, and you realize he's not a villain. He's actually more of a twist hero where he has Kandor and he's like, I'm trying to keep this thing together here. All these bottle cities that I have are all evil fucking places and I'm trying to contain it, Superman, and you're not fucking helping one bit. That would be mind-blowing, and it would work too because Brainiac has been a good guy in the comics in the past. I think that'd be a neat little storyline to pursue. Or here's the other one, again, this is just fan fiction at this point. Imagine a whole city of superpowered conquerors in a jar, and Brainiac is sort of using it like a Pandora's box, where he's like, don't fuck with me or else I'm gonna make this thing normal size again, and Superman is gonna be screwed because all of these Kryptonians are just gonna overpower him because it's a whole city of them. That could be a wild setup for a movie, if they go the Brainiac route. So no, I don't hate the plot thread as a concept. I think it opens up a lot, but in the context of this specific movie, I think it's a little clunky. The themes are solid, the implications are very exciting, but the delivery could have used a bit more finesse. I think my favorite moment in the entire movie is the scene where Mr. Terrific takes out all of Luthor's guards. It's really well done. It reminds me a lot of the whole Yondu Arrow sequences from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Like, out of everything else in the entire movie, it's probably the most Guardians-esque scene that Gunn lets himself indulge in. Just pure controlled chaos with a character absolutely owning the screen. Stylistically, it also kind of works with the rest of the movie. A lot of the fight scenes kind of lean into those long, fluid, one-shot fight scenes that you kind of got from, like, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with the Beastie Boys battle in the hallway. Like, there's a lot of that here. There's a lot of spinning cameras, tracking movement, and momentum-heavy staging. But here, it really, really, really works. The cameos in this movie were genuinely fantastic. They land because they're funny, but they also serve the larger universe that Gunn is slowly building out without derailing the actual story. Supergirl showing up at the end got a massive reaction, like Captain America wielding Thor's hammer in Endgame level of applause in my theater. I was shocked at how hyped people were, especially considering that the last two versions of Supergirl were Supergirl 1984 and The Flash, neither of which were very good. It just shows how much goodwill still exists for these characters, and how audiences are just ready for a version that finally gets it right. John Cena popping up as Peacemaker on a political talk show also just worked so well. It came out of nowhere, and the theater just died laughing. But it also kind of like made me perk up a bit, thinking, you know, beyond this movie, like, okay, is the Suicide Squad canon now? Like, is that official? Because beyond Peacemaker, a few familiar faces from the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker show up here. I'm not mad about it. I'm more curious to see, like, how all this is going to be handled. And I'm guessing that Peacemaker Season 2 will clarify things, but I do hope that this doesn't spiral into a messy continuity problem down the line. Like, if it was up to me, I'd just say, fuck it, the Suicide Squad is canon. I think you could reasonably get away with that. Like, you just have to carry Margot Robbie over as Harley Quinn, or if you don't want to do that, just have a new Harley Quinn. There have been multiple Harley Quinns in the comics. You can always do that. Also, major shout out to Will Reeve, the son of Christopher Reeve, who showed up in this film as a news reporter. That was great. Thank you for that, James Gunn. I really appreciated seeing that, because you see that and you're like, well, yeah, duh. They should have done that years ago. That's a genius cameo move. What I like most, though, about these cameos was that they weren't distracting. They never once were like, we're going to derail this entire scene by having a funny bit, or, you know, like, we're going to have this cameo here to set up a future movie. With Supergirl showing up, it works because, you know, yeah, they're making Supergirl next year, but it also works because it's like, it's a funny bit. It explains why Crypto is so poorly trained in this whole movie. Which, by the way, Crypto was great. I haven't even mentioned him yet. Great. Now, I'm not sure where to put this, so I figured I'd just throw it in at the end of the review. I got the chance to see this movie in IMAX a few days before it was released to the masses. Now, this might sound insane from someone like me that loves movies, but I have never seen a movie in IMAX before until now. And I gotta say, I don't understand the hype around IMAX. I really didn't notice much of a difference between IMAX and a normal movie theater experience. Maybe the usual theater I go to just has really high quality audio and video or something, but I don't know. I didn't get it. I was like, all right, this is just a normal theater experience. But the crowd was really awesome. It was a sold out screening and there were people dressed up as Superman. It felt like an event. And the reason why is, like, there were only a few of these showings throughout Wisconsin. So I really had to kind of drive a bit to go and, you know, see it at this specific location. It was also the first sold out screening that I've ever been to since Avengers Endgame. A lot of that has to do with the fact that I live in a rural part of the state and usually see movies on Tuesday afternoons, where my local theater chain has a discount deal for tickets where it's $6 for a ticket. So while my experiences in theaters usually involve me and like 3 old people sitting in the front row, it was pretty cool being in a packed screening with fans that were just as excited as I was. But I want to know what you think. Let me know down below in the comments. Did you love this movie? Did you hate it? I want to know. And with all of that, this is the end of my big, long Superman retrospective series where I go over every major Superman theatrical release. Really quick, here are the rankings of each of these movies. I'm just going to throw them up on screen right now. I kind of was like going back and forth on Superman 78 and Superman 25. I still don't know which one I like more, but for now I'm just going to say Superman 78. by a very slight margin. Now, the past 2 weeks have been absolutely bonkers for me. I have spent the past 14 days editing videos non-stop, and I really want to take a bit of a break before jumping into any new big projects. Seriously, I have been posting videos almost daily, and if I have to look at an editing timeline any more than I have to, I'm going to vomit. Maybe I might start streaming more frequently again. I really don't know. But what I do know is that I am so thankful for all of you who decided to join me on this trip through a Cliff Notes version of the cinematic history of Superman. Massive thank you to our channel members. Your support means the absolute world. For just $1.99 a month, you can get early access to videos, access to members-only videos, access to all of our live stream VODs, and you get credited as an executive producer in all of our film projects. Their names are listed on screen. Actually, they're gone now. Bye. I'm Cole McCormick. You're watching Firewood Media, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.